Hello and welcome to the HTML5 lecture series at SNHU. I'm Tom Adamson, visiting professor. This is lecture 27 on Power Apps, and I mean Power Apps. You won't believe some of the stuff that you're going to see in this lecture. And all the stuff that you see is open source and really super cool stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to a website called HTML5scripts.org. HTML5scripts.org. And once we're on the site, there's some stuff that I want us to look at. And I'm going to come to the board here and look at our first Power App, our very first Power App. And I think this one here is so cool. It's called WebGL. And let's find out what it is. Well, what it does, what WebGL does, is that it uses your GPU, which is your graphical processing unit, the one on your computer, that's the one that your games use, so that you can get these rich 3D interactive graphics. And it doesn't require any plugins. And it's open source. Which means it's free to use. You get a rich 3D and 2D graphics. It also uses the physics engine in your GPU. Now, what I want to do here is I want to go back to the screen and I want to illustrate something. I'm going to click on GL stuff. And what I see is OpenGL, and I come down here and I see WebGL. And this is the one I'm interested in. I'm going to scroll in here. This is everything I need to know, well, mostly everything I need to know about WebGL, Web Graphics Library. It's a JavaScript application programming interface for rendering interactive 3D graphics and 2D graphics. That means I can do this using Notepad. Nothing I have to buy. Operates with any compatible web browser, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And the stable release came out in March 3rd, 2011. So if people say, well, it's not stable, it is. And the operating system is cross-platform because it uses a browser. Let's go to the website of WebGL and see what's there. We're going to stay on the screen here. Going to click on the link. And what I see here now, it tells me everything I need to know about WebGL. OpenGL 2.0 for the web, and so on. It's cross-platform, royalty-free web standard for low-level 3D graphics API based upon OpenGL, and it's exposed through the HTML5 Canvas element as a document object model interface. We haven't talked much about the Canvas element in HTML5, but we will in a future lecture. It's shader-based, which are thematically similar to the stuff that you get in a real game. It brings plug-in free 3D to the web. And what I want to do is I want to look at the reference card. I'm going to click on that. So if you're interested in it, you can click and you can print out the reference card. And the reference card gives you everything you need to know about WebGL. There's this API reference card, page 1. Here is the page 2 of the reference card. This right here is the shading language for making shaders. That's the stuff that makes things look real in a game. And here is page 4, and this is also the shader language that's used in that particular application. So if I come back here to the scripts, and let me look at 3D example lessons, I'm going to look at some as an example of this. And what I see here is an example of the Quake engine with the WebGL. That's pretty cool, I think, because I'm looking at this through a browser in real time. It couldn't be any faster or any smoother than if I had it installed on my system. But I don't. I don't have anything installed on my system. I'm looking at this through a web browser. I wonder what the source code looks like. Probably just simple text. Isn't that something? Look at that. Well, as a dyed-in-the-wool gamer, I think this stuff is really pretty cool. I can go downstairs some more. I can come here, and there I am back again. I'm going to press the escape key. Okay, so that was an example of what you could do, with that with WebGL. Okay, let's go back to the board here. That's Power App number 1. Let's look at Power App number 2. It's amazing what you can get for free. You might say, well, why haven't I heard about it? Well, unfortunately, these folks don't have the big advertising budgets that the companies, the private for-profit ones do. Okay, so here, the next one is going to be number 2 here. This is going to be WebCL. And what that stands for is the Web Computing Language. The web computing language is different from the JavaScript, but what it can do, it allows me to do allows for parallel processing in client computers through a web browser. If your GPU contains more than one CPU, which many of them do, it will actually allow for parallel processing in that GPU on your computer, on whatever it is you're using. And the nice thing about it is that there's no plugins required. It, of course, is open source, which means it's free. And it uses JavaScript as its API to tie into it in order to use the web computing language. I'm going to go to the website here for that. So if we can go back on the screen, please. I'm just going to scroll on down, and now I have WebCL. Okay, and I'm going to go on the link for WebCL, and here it is, WebCL, and it can do all kinds of really cool things. Let's see, was there anything that I wanted to show on this? Parallel computing. Yes, I did. Yes, right here. I'm going to view it. There's a demo here that's relatively important to look at, and I'll go over here on the screen while the demo is being played and try and explain what's happening. That's the demo environment, which I think is an Apple computer, yeah, and was using the Safari browser. And here's an example of parallel processing on that particular computer. As you can see, as this is moving around, okay, you can see how the images are being picked up on these spheres. All right. However, when the spheres are deformed and you try to do the same thing, notice how jerky the screen is, because there's a lot of processing going on here. This is using just pure JavaScript. This is not using the WebCL. See, that's the simulation mode now in JavaScript. Notice how now this is in WebCL, the computer language, the web computing language. Notice how fast it renders, okay, and right through the browser, because it's using parallel processing. And notice the reflections off here are just going like that, really, really quick, as if it were sitting on your system, but it isn't. Notice the difference. If it's using JavaScript, it's going about 1.2 frames per second. With WebCL, it's going between 87 and 105 frames per second on the exact same computer system, but now parallel processing versus non-parallel processing. Okay, we're going to stay on the screen. If you notice, there was a note there that they were hiring. So anyhow, okay. All right, I'm going to go back to the board now, and I'm going to look at my next one, my next Power App. Now, keep in mind there's two things that we've already covered. We've talked about, we've already talked about jQuery and what it can do, and we also talked about jQuery UI. So I want you to know that they are on our list for Power Apps. I'm just not going to go over them again because I already did that once. So the next Power App I want to talk about, it's the knock your socks off, hard to believe, 3JS. And 3JS, for those that say, well, I don't want to use it because it's not stable, it is stable. All right, what does 3JS do? It creates and displays animated 3D graphics. It can use the canvas element. It can use SVG, scalable vector graphics, and it can use WebGL. It's open source, which means it's free. It was developed at MIT, and it uses the MIT license, which essentially makes it free to use, and is a platform independent competitor for Maya, 3ds Max, and ZBrush. The reason why it's platform independent is because it all works through a browser. Now what I want to do now is I want to go to some examples of this, but let's just review this. 3JS creates, displays animated 3D graphics, can use the canvas element, can use SVG, and can use WebGL. It's open source, which means it's free. It's developed at MIT. It's a platform independent competitor for Maya, 3ds Max, and ZBrush. Okay, now we're going to go to the screen. And I'm going to scroll up here to 3JS. And when I come here to 3JS, that's the overview that I just gave. And I want to look at some working examples. And here's some working examples of 3JS. Some of these we've seen before when we did some other stuff on here. There's one here with a car. And there's my car. That's really not my car in the parking lot. But what you can see about this car is that obviously it's three-dimensional. Everything you see here is through a browser. All of this is done, could be done in Notepad. You want to do a Lamborghini. Okay, there's a Lamborghini. You want a blue metal. Blue metal. I like being able to pick out the color of my car. Let's make it a red car. There's my red Lamborghini. And if I use my mouse, I'm just moving my mouse around here, which allows me to see different parts of the car. And I can make it a bronze if I want. I can make it a chrome. And all of this is using 3JS. And all I have to do is just link to 3JS, just like I was able to link to jQuery or jQuery UI. It's really that simple. Okay, I'm going to get out of here now. And now I'm going to come here. And I'm going to come down here and look at. That's all the stuff that has information about 3JS, all the latest updates, all the code you need. You have access to tutorials on 3JS, and it's something that's just an extremely powerful, really, really cool program, I think. Okay, we're going to go back to the board now, and we're going to look at a fourth Power App. We'll have some lectures and demonstrations on 3JS in some future lectures to give you an idea of how it's used and its potential power. Okay. The other one, the other Power App, let's see. Maybe I need a new pen here. Let me get a new pen. I have one, right? I think they're in here. Okay, here we go. This one looks like it might work. Let me try this one. Okay, number 4. Oh yeah, that's good. Is this number 4? Yeah, it is number 4. Well, I got to make it look like a 4. How's that for a 4? That's a pretty 6-4. This is Node.js. Now, what does Node.js do? What it does is that it builds fast, scalable, network applications. And it's perfect for data intensive real-time applications across distributed networks. Now, this says a lot for Node.js. What this means is that this replaces languages that are traditionally used on the server. Like, for example, the language like PHP. If I'm going to be coding in JavaScript on the client, okay, which I'm going to do if I use HTML5, then why not also code in JavaScript on the server? I can. This is nothing more than a library, just like jQuery was a library. And this library, of course, is free. It's open source. You can use it. And the other thing about it, you can do it all in Notepad. There's nothing you have to buy. And yes, it's a stable release, all this other good stuff. So what I want to do is I want to go to the screen now. And I want to look at, I don't want to look at this guy. I don't want to look at this guy. I've already seen him. I've already seen him. I want to come here and I want to look at Node.js. Here it is. And there's their site, Node.js. Now, what is Node.js? Okay. I'm going to scroll in here and hopefully you can see it. What Node.js is, it's actually something you install in your browser. It's built on Chrome's JavaScript runtime. Stay on the screen here. Let's see what is JavaScript, what is Chrome's, meaning Google's JavaScript runtime. Okay. It's the V8 JavaScript engine. It's written in C++ and is used in Google Chrome, the open source browser from Google. Effectively, what this means is that if you get the Google Chrome source code, which is in C++, you can modify that source code and make it so that the browser now behaves differently. The browser itself can behave differently. You can't do that with IE. And there's other browsers that possibly can't do that with. So the V8 is the JavaScript engine, but the whole thing is written in C++. You can go into that and actually modify the V8 JavaScript engine. And that's what they did for, seeing on the screen here, for Node.js. That's a powerful concept and a powerful tool. This we won't be covering in this course. This is probably stuff for a graduate course in this kind of a subject. All right, so now I'm going to go to the next one. Okay, we go back on the screen here, on the board, please. And we're going to look at the next Power App. Number 5. And the next Power App is Dojo. You might say, that sounds pretty dumb. Where do you see what Dojo is? Dojo is so cool, it's pathetic. You wonder how it is they can put it out. You're interested in doing cell phone applications and stuff like that? You need to look at Dojo. And that's what we're going to do. Let's go back on the screen now. We'll go back on the screen, please. Okay. And I'm going to look at Dojo now. Here's Dojo. And I'm going to look at features. I'm just going to look at its mobile features. This is mobile. There's desktop features, mobile features. There's graphics and charting features. There's tools. There's integrations. If I come here to mobile, right here, I can now make mobile apps. I can see them in action. They're all ready for business and everything. Let's look at a mobile gallery showcase right here. Loading. What do you want to try? You want to try some buttons? Okay, here's different buttons that you can do in Dojo. You don't like these buttons here? I'll go into texture. Okay, they're glossy, shadow, candy, matte. Let's try the different shapes. There's different shapes. There's one this way, there's one that way. I can look at the source code if I want. And the source code actually is pretty straightforward. It's all written in English, and it's all done in Notepad. I can look at forms, I can look at switches, and I can put these all on my cell phones. Here's off, on. I just have them enlarged so you can see them. And the other thing, too, about these is that I can make them so they're touch sensitive. And I can change the colors, I can change the shape. It goes on and on. I could have a whole lecture just on Dojo. Dojo is the coolest of the cool. You want forms, you want themes, you want mobile interaction. Hey man, you got Dojo. And how much does Dojo cost? Nothing. It's totally free. Okay, we're going to go back to the board here. So hopefully I got you interested in Dojo. So if you're going to do mobile applications and stuff like that, go and get Dojo. And it's a JavaScript library. Everything's written in JavaScript as before. And the next one, number 6, is Snhu tools. And we're going to go to the Snhu tools, like the cow, Snhu tools site. And we're going to go over here, and we're going to go over here. And where's Snhu tools are right here. Snhu tools. Snhu tools is a compact, modular, object-oriented JavaScript framework designed for the intermediate to advanced JavaScript developers. It allows you to write powerful, flexible, and cross-browser code with this elegant, well-documented, and coherent API. And you get an open source license. There's all kinds of, if you're interested in that, here's documentation, downloads, blogs, and here's demos of Snhu tools, what it can do. It can do a lot of things that jQuery and jQuery UI could do. Here's drag and drop, here's effects, here's events, here's requests, here's plugins, and so on. So just to make you aware of Snhu tools. Okay, now the last one I want to go to is the Code Playground. This is the Code Playground by Google, and it's on code.google.com. Now, what's so cool about this is you can pick your language, you can pick any of these other things, any of these other super plugin tools or libraries, and then what you can do is that you can look at the code, you can change the code, and then you can come down, I'll scroll down here on the screen, and then you can see what the resulting output is. So what this has for you, it has compilers already built in. You can try any code you want, and then you can see the results. And it'll also help you debug your code. When you get the code that you want, like here, let's go to libraries. There's jQuery, jQuery UIs, Snhu tools, Dojo, prototypes, Scriptaculous. We haven't talked about that. Here's maps, different kinds of maps. Here's a simple map. Here's how you do a simple map. There it is right there. See, I can scroll around, and here's the code for it. Here's how you do that code. And then I can debug the code, run the code, and when I get something that I want, since I'm using Notepad, I just copy and paste that, and I got it. This one right here, Google Code Playground, is just the coolest of the cool. It'll make you look like an expert in no time flat. So let's go back to the board here. Please, back here on the board. Okay. Here's what hopefully you begin to see. You begin to see there's so much stuff in HTML5, and I can assure you that where we are right now with lecture 27, we haven't even covered half of it. There's no way that you can teach everything a professional needs to know about HTML5 in one course. That's daydreaming. HTML5, for people to really know it and really understands it, needs to be a 4-year degree program where a person gets a professional Bachelor of Science degree in Internet Studies, IS, Internet Studies. And there also should be a graduate program made available for them as well in the same field. Hopefully, by you just browsing through, not even looking at all the lectures, just browsing through all the topics that we've covered so far in these lectures, that should convince you that if you try to throw a student into all this stuff here in one course, you're doing the student a disservice. You're misleading them into thinking that they really understand HTML5. That's not true. It's going to take several courses, and it's going to take some time for them to practice and understand what's going on in this extremely complex field of HTML5. Okay, I hope this lecture was some help to give you a view of the extent and the depth of this HTML5 subject. That's it for this lecture. Thank you for attending.